I never liked this. This is one of my least favorite episodes, by the way, which I'll get into. No, and this is in 1968. You know, I believe, we age more slowly now, even just because of culture. But yeah, she's like 85, 86 there, and just amazing. A lot of times, what they would do with scripts sometimes, because it just became so frequent, is give all of Dick's line to David White, as in Larry Tate. This is very common, again, behind the scenes thing in general with older people, because again, 85 years old, they're not going to memorize these giant long speeches. They're not going to even be expected to.
Bewitched, bewitched, you've got me in your spell.
Let's chat about Bewitched, and let's also use this episode of chat and this episode that you're watching here and I'm watching there, to celebrate the great actress Marion Lorne. Oh, what a wonderful person she was, who played Aunt Clara. First of all, look at Liz's hair. See this whoop, whoop, whoop right there? Watch how it just vanishes. I know, look, I'm jumping right into behind the scenes things. My guess is this shot is shot the very first shot of the day, because she's going to come downstairs and it'll be gone, because hairspray only works so well. So there it is. And eventually it's going to go away as they shoot all their living room things because of all that. See, it's already starting to droop. And like in 60 seconds, it'll be totally gone. That might sound like a weird thing to talk about, but that is a very, wardrobe and hair is always a challenge when either shooting a movie or episodic television, because, a movie may take place in 1 week, but it might take a year to shoot, but yet their hair has to stay the same, and hair's growing, hair's changing, gray roots are showing if you're older, whatever the case is, but you always have to make it look consistent. And especially with women's hair, and again, the only reason I know this is from just being on so many sets, women, when you're doing these hairstyles with lots of big curls and all that stuff, see, it's gone. It's gone, poof, gone, because this is they probably shot all the living room things first, and then they had to do a completely new setup, move some walls around, and then they did the foyer stuff, which could have been the second part of that day, or it could have been the next day, and things change. And, there are people online who love to notice that stuff and talk about inconsistencies, but I don't know, to me, only because she looked so stunningly beautiful coming down the stairs that I just noticed that, she just looked different, and hair and things look different. But then again, I noticed that stuff. I never liked this. This is one of my least favorite episodes, by the way, which I'll get into. I never liked that they made that flying saucer fly around like that, because it looked too much like magic, and they're ruining their shtick. Yeah, they're using wires and making it fly around and everything, but it looks like too much like it's a magic thing, and they're just messing up. When credits roll, I'll talk more about Marion Lorne here. So the storyline is Darren has a flying saucer. So this was broadcast in 1968. Did they have flying saucers that could fly around the house in 1968? No. I mean, now we have drones, but even those haven't been that long, and they're not that good. So Tabitha has a toy flying saucer. It flies away, and Clara zaps it back, and she gets a real flying saucer. And Clara, as in Marion Lorne. Okay, so she realizes she made a mistake. She's going to try to get rid of it. And being Aunt Clara, it doesn't work. Being Marion Lorne, the brilliant actress, we're completely buying it. She's fumbling and stumbling, and all that's acting. As I've told you before, she was actually kind of brilliant. She's a brilliant actress. Just I don't usually talk like this, but just a lovely person. Only because I've heard that word. She was just a lovely person. All right, so one of the reasons I don't like this episode, before we get into the opening credits so I can talk about stuff, is it's just too cheeseball for me. I never like it when Bewitched crosses the cheeseball. Look, really? Remember I complained about the Macedonian dodo bird? You're like, yeah, dude, you complain a lot. Well, no, I'm just very protective of it. And so the wardrobe person used a Sharpie to draw on their little metallic vests, and they used a Sharpie to draw those black circles in that thing. So anyway, but the wardrobing is, I don't know, just the whole premise of the storyline That these are the aliens they use. I get it. It's a sitcom. And again, you can lambaste me for that. You have every right. But if you want to talk about one of my least favorite episodes, this is it. I do so much about my favorites. I thought, let me do one that I'm not real fond of. Though I never really liked the ones where Darren spells put on Darren either, which I've talked about before. All right, let me just tell you the sad facts about this episode. This is Marion Lorne's last ever episode. So this was filmed on February 19th, 1968. So it's filmed in February of 1968. By May 1968, Marion Lorne had passed away. Specifically on May 9th, 1968, Marion Lorne passed away. So this was her very last Bewitched episode, which, boy, I can't tell. She doesn't look unhealthy or feeble or old. The curl's gone or anything to me. Just a wonderful, sweet lady. Who knew that a few short months after this, we would lose her. But again, just look how wonderful. Liz loved her. I've talked about it. It's pretty well known. Absolutely adored Marion. Liz and Marion had just a great relationship. Marion lived in New York City, Manhattan, and would fly in to do the episodes a lot. She was here a lot and stayed at the Beverly Hills Hotel when she was here in a bungalow. And but look at her. What a sweet thing. How sad, huh? Okay, so the episode is called Samantha's Secret Saucer. Why Samantha's, I don't have any idea. She had nothing to do with it, but that's what they titled, with the writer, Jerry Mayer and Paul Friedman, who wrote this episode, titled the episode. It was directed by Richard Michaels, the guy Liz eventually ran off with at the, 5 years from here. It's their 137th episode, their 137th episode. And it's season 4, episode 30. Okay, so yeah, let's celebrate Marion and just enjoy her. Look how wonderful of an actress she is. Again, that's all. She's just such a good actress. You just buy everything she's saying and how she's saying it. All right, let me see if I can figure out how old she is. If this is season 4, she was, I'm pretty sure, was it 80? Let's just say 82. It's either 81 or 82. Let's just say 82 in season 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. So she's 85, 86 here. That's amazing. My parents are still around, and at least one of them aren't that healthy. They're not that old. My mother isn't that old, but I don't know. And this is in 1968. I believe we age more slowly now, even just because of culture. But yeah, she's like 85, 86 there, and just amazing. Look at them holding hands. Isn't that sweet? And again, I think all that is just kind of real. All right, so back to the episode. So Agnes Kravitz, Sandra Gold, the actress, is witnessing all this stuff. Has she busted them yet? She must have. So that gun right there, which, by the way, there are a lot of guns in this episode, including real ones. When I first, oh, there she is. Okay. Peering over the fence, and she's busted them. To which you might say, in curlers and a nightgown? Actually, believe it or not, yes. People, again, if you're a youngin', back then, you would see women in the grocery store shopping, looking not maybe in their nightgown, because there weren't Walmarts yet. Now you see them in their nightgown. But, back to Liz's hair. This is all going together with that whoop whoop going there and the kind of Farrah Fawcett thing going. If you know what all that is, this is all getting into that era, late 60s, early 70s, when the big hair came in and the Farrah Fawcett hair came in. And I have no idea if curling irons existed by then, but I'm pretty sure they did. Haven't I seen them in like the 30s and 40s? How about hot curlers? Did hot curlers exist in the 70s? I don't know. Again, I don't know that stuff. Yeah, because don't you see old like pictures of people in beauty salons, and each curler has a wire going somewhere? I'm guessing they did. I don't know that stuff, admittedly. But my point is, you might say, "Oh, that's ridiculous. It can't be that if you're young, that someone's going to run around in curlers with their hair like that." Yeah, they did that. And I guess in your own neighborhood, you would run around in curlers and a nightgown to your neighbor's house. In this case, across the street, which, as you saw for previous Bewitched chats, isn't really across the street. Okay, see the skinny one? Guess who that is? I'm pretty sure. I didn't research this deeply, but the minute that I looked at it, I went, "Oh, it's the chair." Remember? What was the chair's name? Oh crap! Now I forget. Well, let me tell you the actor's name. The actor's name is Eldon Quick. The chair is one of my favorite episodes when Liz turns the chair. What's his name? Can't draw a blank. It'll come to me. But yeah, that's the chair again. And I really liked him. I really liked him in the. You know what? I could be wrong. I'm just looking at him saying, "Oh, look, that's the chair." Another day player character actor in the middle. His name is Larry D. Mann. He's in lots of things. He showed up a lot. He's been a client. Again, Bill liked to reuse people over and over again. So now Samantha's. How did this work? How much time has passed that Gladys is still in those curlers in that nightgown? But I guess people did just wear them all day long. So she had to call the Air Force. The Air Force had to get there. And she chose to meet the Air Force at her front door in curlers in that nightgown. I love it. I love it. Again, it's quirky and campy. Okay, so, I don't think they built that saucer. Again, the way things like this work, to this day, is if these guys who I read, I'm still holding this because there's something else I want to read, say, hey, we have an episode with the flying saucer. They're not going to build that giant flying saucer, which isn't as big as you think, by the way. Watch when the actors come out. You'll see how big it really is. They just shoot it on a wide angle and make it look really big. But they just call the prop shop of that studio or an independent prop shop, of which there are tons in Hollywood, and say, hey, we need a flying saucer that people can actually walk in and out of. They'll go, oh, yeah, we have 3 of them. Come down and look at them. Then the production crew, the production designer, whoever walks you go. Again, this is all done way before shooting. That's what pre-production is. That's why I say pre-production is a big deal when I talk about Dick York not showing up or something. Because let's say, and they have to rent these. They have to pay money to have them as long as they have them. If they had this episode written 3 weeks ago and Dick York didn't show up for it, now they got this giant flying saucer on the back lot that they can't use because Dick York didn't show up, so they have to pull another script that Dick York isn't in it and shoot that. And parenthetically, I don't think I've ever said this before, a lot of times what they would do with scripts sometimes, because it just became so frequent, is give all of Dick's line to David White, as in Larry Tate, and just kind of play with it as they went along, and David White would do all of Dick York's lines. Okay, so here we go. So again, maybe I doubt they built it. So as you see, if he stands up, he's almost to the top of that. He's almost to the top. So when he walks down, he's to the top of where that orange ball means. So which would lead me to believe that's about 8 feet high, but it looks 16 feet high. So it's not that big, but it's big enough. So, again, they're not there when this is being shot. They're shooting the actors in the flying saucer all by itself. Then they're bringing in Dick and Liz, then shooting them all by themselves. Then they edit it all together because that's just what you had to do. You just couldn't have them sitting around all day long. Okay. So, here we go. I love it. All right. What else I wanted to read you a couple things. I have fun facts. By the way, in this 2024 edition of Bewitched Behind the Scenes, a lot of my fun facts I got from IMDb, or is it IMBD, whatever it is. It's a thorn in my flesh because I'm one of those weird people that like to scrub my name from the internet, and just because I don't like to easily be found. Not that I have any felonies or anything like that. Not that I'm wanted, but there are just too many bad cases out there for my taste. And I just they'll take them off and then I show up again. And they take them off and I show up again. And they take them off and I show up 1 or 2 or 3 and then none and then 3 and then none and then 8 and then none. So my guess is because I still get residual checks for a lot of things I did. I know you're like, this is TMI. Look, can we talk about Bewitched? But I'm just trying to, it relates. I think maybe every time I get a residual check, it goes through something and then I just pop up off back there again. But I try to keep my name off that as much as I can. My point is, that's where I got a lot of these fun facts. So what did I want to read? Okay. So, I know, this is a real important one. Two supporting actresses, Agnes Pierce, who played Gladys Kravitz, and Marion Lorne, who played Aunt Clara. My whole point of saying all this, were both awarded Emmys posthumously. And if you don't know what posthumously means, that means after they died. So the first Gladys Kravitz and the only Aunt Clara, bravo, bravo, they were both different, got Emmy Awards after they died. And if you don't know this, again, because they were so close, Liz accepted Marion's Emmy Award. Does anyone know where I can get that video? How cool would it be to see that? I'll bet that would be cool. And it's got to be out there somewhere. If anyone knows where I can get video or can refer me to a video of Liz accepting Marion's Emmy Award, that'd be super cool. I'd love to see that. Okay. One other more fact about people passing away. Again, I don't mean this to be a Debbie Downer. I'm just going to read this. Of the 23 actors and actresses who appeared in 10 or more episodes, so in other words, now we're not talking about day players, we're talking about fairly regular. So there were 23 people during the run of Bewitched who regularly were on. They were at least 10 episodes. Of the 23, only 3 were alive at the 50th anniversary in 2014. You've heard people talk about the Bewitched curse. They died too young. Wherever you stand on that, the bottom line is at the 50th anniversary of Bewitched, which now we're coming up to 60th anniversary, right? Or we're already there. So as of 10 years ago, from when we're shooting this, only 3 were alive. They were Bernard Fox, Dr. Bombay, very gracious man with his time with Bewitched fans over the year in his later years, spent lots of time with lots of Bewitched fans and fan clubs and people like that. So Bernard Fox, he was 87 at the time, and also enjoys the greatest longevity of any of those actors and actresses. So Bernard Fox lived longer than anyone. The others, where's the other one? The others were Diane and Aaron Murphy, who played Tabitha, who were 50 at the time. Oh, so when did Louise number 2 die? Has she already passed by then? I'm gonna have to look, and I'll get back to you. Is it in here anywhere? Wonderful person, met her, really liked her a lot. So the reason that they're saying 3, Dr. Bombay and 2 Tabithas, was, again, if you don't know, originally there were 2 Tabithas, twins, Aaron and Diane Murphy, but they were fraternal twins, and when they started to look too much differently, then when they didn't look alike anymore, because Diane ended up having dark hair and Aaron ended up having light hair, unless she just bleaches it blonde, but as kids. So then Aaron Murphy took over singularly Tabitha because they couldn't swap them out anymore. So Dr. Bombay and the 2 Tabithas were all that were around at the 50th anniversary. Interesting, huh? Okay, now I'm done with that. All right, so let's just go back to the episode. Look, there's Marion. Sweet thing. Hope that doesn't sound condescending when I say that, because to me, she's the kind of person you just want to walk up and give her a hug, and she probably smelled like old lady perfume and powder. That's a whack job. I love old lady smells. I love old lady perfume and powder smells. I do. Have you noticed that, like, when you get Amazon boxes or Walmart boxes or boxes from FedEx, they all smell like old lady perfume now? Am I the only one? I said to my son the other day, smell this. Doesn't this smell like old lady They always do. And like too much, so I have to like put them out. There's another little building on my property. I'm like, take them out to that back. I can't stand smelling them. Okay, so Marion, smelling like old lady perfume and powder. The sweetest little thing that you just want to walk up and hug. Her very last episode. And nailing it. Killing it. So if you ever notice with Marion, really from the beginning, this is very common, again, a behind-the-scenes thing in general with older people. Because, again, 85 years old, they're not going to memorize these giant long speeches. They're not going to even be expected to. My watch just dropped and fell off. How rude. It actually, the band cracked. They're not going to memorize, and this is live to tape, there is no cut. See, in real life, that would be cut. His watch broke, and Wardrobe would probably get a tongue lashing. Um, so, they give them little pieces. And so a lot of times, like, let's just say, though, in the script, they have a long speech because there's no way of getting around it. Let's say an 85-year-old actor has this long confession speech. What do? How do you shoot that as a director? They have, let's say, a half a page. Let's say they have a 60-second speech. There are ways to shoot that. So what you would do is, and a lot of times you don't even expect them to memorize if they're really, really old. Again, I'm not talking about Marion, I'm talking about in general. So you'll say, okay, say these two lines. I'm going to say Joe. Let's say Joe is 90, Joe, say, I have something to tell you all. This is going to be very hard. And it's a close-up of Joe. And Joe will say, I have something to tell you all. This will be very hard. And then you'll move the camera, though not that minute. You'll give him other close-up things to say. Then you'll move the camera behind Joe, and you'll see the back of Joe's head and the people talking. And now Joe doesn't even have to memorize that line anymore. Now, Joe, read this line off camera. Let's say it's a real complicated line, because when I was in Schenectady, New York, and I drove the Maserati at 80 miles an hour going around the bend before I got to Poughkeepsie, I knew that I had to stop and get 87 level gas, blah, 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 blah. And then you'll just voice that over the back of his head, and then you can go have Joe do two more lines close up, and then you can take a picture of someone reacting, listening to Joe, while Joe is reading more lines, and you edit it together, and it looks like Joe is saying all these lines. So that's how you work with older actors as a director, if you have to do it that way. So you'll notice that they're never really on camera for long periods of time, but they do little snippets here and there. Back to the episode, they just shot Gladys Kravitz with the N gun, the nice gun. And by the way, Orvis and whoever the other one's name is in their space outfits with Sharpie drawings on them have decided they like pancakes and syrup, and they're going to take it back to their flying saucer. And now that Gladys has now her curlers are gone. The day has moved on. She's taken it, but that's how you get those big curls and things up there that they wore back then in Andorra and everything. Like in real life. Both of them are probably, I'm guessing with her, that's the top part's a wig. They just kind of, again, I'm saying that because, for consistency reasons, that day after day after day, trying to get her, as we just saw with Samantha, trying to get her hair to match constantly with that kind of a dramatic hairstyle. You just had to use wigs, so you just pull her hair up and you plop that top wiglet or whatever it's called on. All right, so she's out of her curlers and her nightgown. She has her wigs on, and she's been zapped with the end gun. So now she's real nice. The end gun. See the guns I was talking about? I don't know. When I saw that, I'm like, wow. For Bewitched, they got like the Air Force there with the guns, and there goes the chair. What was his name? I know it's not Sheldon. Oh, crap. Don't you hate that when you draw a blank? There he is. So now, Aunt Clara's going to memorize the spell, and he's like, hold it. Very cool, very smooth. And there we bring this big, bright, white, flashing light on. See how little the yard is? Look at the yard. Oh, it's gone. That's a very little yard. Again, forced perspective to make it look bigger than it is. See how little it is? It slants up in the back, so it looks like it goes further, but if they don't do the lighting just right, you can see the shading enough to know that that's a very little backyard shot with the wide-angle lens to make it look bigger. So now the chair and the other day player are saying what's up, and now he's saying, tell them, Mrs. Kravitz, about the floppy ears and everything. And what had happened, because I'm talking like a teen, is Darren told Mrs. Kravitz earlier, oh, this is all for an ad campaign. 50% of their reasons of why anything happens. Either you're drunk or it's really part of an ad campaign. So she told Mrs. Kravitz it's part of an ad campaign. And, of course, before the end gun, she's like, it is not. But now that she's been blasted with the end gun, she's like, oh, it was all part of an ad campaign. All right. Now here comes the nice little closing scene. So I don't know what order they shot this in. Again, the way they shoot this stuff is they did everything in the living room all at once. because it's easier for the actors to change their clothes than to move all the cameras and lights. Oh, look, her floop is back. Well, her little whoop, whoop, whoop is back, which makes me believe, just being weird. Of course, they could have just re-whooped it back. They shot the stairs, then they shot the patio stuff, then they shot the living room stuff, then they shot the foyer stuff. That would be my guess. In days. Typically, the way it worked, I don't know about this exact show, but typically Monday was prep day. Actors get together, do the read through the script, and then they start shooting Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Hopefully they're done by Friday, but when they're not, they have to bleed over into Saturday to shoot. Or if they have, as you saw, they turn them around real quick. If they have lucky enough to have time on their side, they can just do pickups later in the week, but then production gets behind. It's new directors. It's a mess. So that's it. So Marion, we love Marion, don't we? Added so much. Eventually, who was she replaced with? Some will say Paul Lynde, some will say Alice Ghostly. I feel like she was replaced by Paul Lynde as in Uncle Arthur. Some people say, no, Esmeralda was her replacement because she was a fumbler as well. But whomever, at the end of the day, irreplaceable. Wouldn't you agree? Loved her, loved what she added. Liz loved her, loved what she added. Everybody loved her. Imagine she's working with, you heard me in the Bewitched chat before, controversially talking about how difficult I think Agnes Moorehead was. We know the Dick York story. I can see Liz saying, thank God, Marion, you're here. I need someone normal. That's my guess. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. One of my least favorite episodes, but very heartfelt because it was Marion's last. So I hope you enjoyed this Bewitched chat. More to come. Go out there, keep the magic alive and the magic in your life, and I will see you next time.
I never thought my heart would be happy, but now I'm caught and I'm kinda glad to be.